Electronic Waste, an Ethics Discussion by Shannon Smith. Today we will be discussing 3 topics. First, what is electronic waste? Second, why is electronic waste a problem? And finally, what should we do about it? Electronic waste is also referred to as e-waste. It consists of any discarded electronic devices, including cell phones, computers, batteries, TVs, refrigerators, and other devices that use electricity. So how much e-waste do we actually generate? In 2010, we created 2.44 million tons of e-waste in the US alone. That's the equivalent of 15.8 pounds per US citizen per year. If we look at this in terms of devices, that's 2 laptops, 1 iPhone, and 5 batteries each year. In 2012, an average household reported owning a staggering 24 electronic devices. As more advanced technology comes into the picture, our old electronics get thrown out. And according to Moore's law, this growth will only continue and more e-waste will be produced. Once discarded, where does the e-waste go? According to the EPA, 27% is recycled and made into other usable products. The other 73% is either landfilled or sent abroad. So why is this a problem? E-waste creates 2 main issues. First, there are health and environmental issues with throwing away electronics. Second, e-waste causes a larger divide between the first and third worlds. Responsibly recycling e-waste in the U.S. creates some health and environmental hazards, such as worker safety. But for the purposes of this discussion, it pales in comparison to the effects caused by landfilling and sending e-waste abroad. When e-waste is thrown out and sent to the landfill, the components of the electronics start to break down. Most electronics contain at least one of these elements: lead, cadmium, mercury, barium, and hydrocarbons. These heavy metals and hydrocarbons contaminate the leachate, which is the water created and collected by a landfill. This leachate can sometimes seep into the ground and contaminate our drinking water. E-waste, when decomposing, can also create toxic air emissions that can seep out the landfill cover. Landfilling e-waste causes both air and water pollution that are harmful to our environment and our health. The second main issue surrounding e-waste is the impact it has on the third world. In the U.S. and most Western countries, there are strict environmental laws when it comes to handling waste. Whether you are landfilling the waste or recycling it, the regulations are sometimes too strict to be financially feasible here. For this reason, many electronic recycling companies send their waste to countries with little or no regulations. Third world countries like India, China, and Ghana. This creates a large international issue with many facets. First, sending e-waste by boat from the U.S. to China, for example, creates unnecessary transportation emissions. Second, most developing countries do not have adequate infrastructure to handle the large amounts of waste coming from its own country, let alone the rest of the world. And third, many who handle the e-waste in these countries simply burn what they don't salvage, creating extremely unhealthy living and work environments for these citizens. Now that we know how e-waste affects our world, we must think about how to fix this problem. There are multiple solutions to the e-waste epidemic, and we must all work together to reduce the amount of harm e-waste causes. Locally, we can make a conscious effort to recycle electronics in each household. Recycling businesses also need to stop sending electronics abroad and start setting a precedent for proper recycling practices. And globally, we finally need to take responsibility for our own waste. Local solutions are the first step in solving the e-waste problem. We have already established that individually we throw away about 16 pounds of e-waste every year. We can reduce this number by waiting until the useful life of a device has expired. And if you do want to get rid of something, even though it still works, consider giving it away rather than throwing it away. If you have an old TV and a relative going off to college, giving it to that relative is a great way to extend the useful life of an electronic device while saving money. Another way to reduce the amount of e-waste that goes to landfills or sent abroad is to recycle locally. There are plenty of local recycling centers and electronic stores that handle e-waste in your area. Try to recycle as many electronic devices as possible. Even if you are unsure whether it's classified as e-waste, still take it in to make sure. Now, the local solutions of recycling more e-waste means nothing without the support of the recycling businesses. Just in the past 10 years, many recycling companies have shipped a majority of their e-waste to other developing countries because labor is too expensive in the U.S. However, there are benefits to recycling locally that should be considered. Inside each electronic device contains valuable materials that can be sold or used again. For example, recycling 1 million cell phones recovers 50 pounds of gold, 550 pounds of silver, 20 pounds of palladium, and 20,000 pounds of copper. Today's market prices would suggest that the value of these materials combined are $1.6 million, and that's for recycling only 1 million cell phones. In 2010, we threw away 152 million cell phones, which equates to a total recycling value of $246 million. That's just 1 year's worth of discarded cell phones. You can only imagine the value of recycling laptops, tablets, and other electronic devices as well. Unfortunately, the current process for recovering materials from recycled products are not that efficient. It is important for companies to put the time and effort into research and development to come up with better ways of extracting this value. Both local and business solutions rely on an international commitment to solving e-waste. We must all be aware of the things we throw away and the damage that can be done. Each person, business, and country must take responsibility for their own actions. Without this commitment, and with the looming growth of electronic products, we will not be able to stop the pollution to the earth or to ourselves. So the next time you think about throwing out those used batteries, just don't.